Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of exploring the canonicity of Tekken endings. We're doing what is probably most people's entryway to the series in Tekken 3. It's kind of funny, Tekken 1 and 2 were these smash hits, but if you talk to the community, so many people will tell you they started with Tekken 3, at a friend's house, or they saw the game at the arcade and played it. It's just a very popular game, Tekken-wise, and lots of people have played it. Tekken 3 also marks really the last of what I call the classic Tekken era. If you're a dinosaur like me, this is probably classic Tekken to you. If you're a little bit younger, maybe mid-20s, somewhere in there, you probably consider Tekken 4, 5, and 6, maybe even 6 classic Tekken, and this is just like Mesozoic Cretaceous period era Tekken. But to me, Tekken 1, 2, and 3 make up the classic canon of the series. And you could make an argument that the arcade version of Tekken Tag Tournament 1 as well, since it ran on the Tekken 3 ending. The PlayStation 2 port, it was a completely revamped game, graphics-wise and engine. Well, the engine was the same, but it was a revamped game, and it was much more in line with Tekken 4, 5, and not really 6, but 4 and 5. So Tag 1, 5, and Tekken Tag 1, 4, and 5 make up the trifecta on PlayStation 2. Anyway, all that's beside the point. Today we're looking at the canonicity of endings in Tekken 3. And so if you haven't seen these videos before, you may want to check out the ones I did on Tekken 1 and 2. But we have the spreadsheet here, which we did for the other games as well. But this one lists all the CGI and ending type movies in the game. And then I assign a type based on what happens in the ending. So some of these are vignettes. We still don't know how to pronounce that word, which just means the ending is like a little clip or slice of life or something that happened to this character. And that could be partially canon, it could be not canon, or it could be canon. Who knows? Basically, for these types of things, we just look at them, and if there's nothing in there that contradicts other Tekken lore that we know to be concrete, we just mark it as canon. What if endings are basically endings that are like, what if this character had defeated whoever the villain was and had won the tournament? 99.9% of these are going to be not canon. There may be a few partially canon ones out there, but just look for these guys to be non-canon because they're what ifs. And conclusionary endings are similar to this, except they are kind of like, the difference is being the vignette ending is like Lei Wulong's ending that we're going to watch in a minute. It's something that could have happened, but it has no real bearing or relevance on the story other than maybe some character development. Conclusion endings are endings that move the game story along for that character or the Tekken series as a whole. So for example, Jin's endings are almost always conclusion endings here on out because they are basically the conclusion of the story of whatever game it is. Some other characters that have conclusion endings are characters like King 2, we're going to watch in a minute. His is a conclusion ending. It kind of concludes his story in Tekken 3, and it moves the plot along as far as him and his relationship to Armor King. But we'll explain that more when we get there. Let's start out by watching the opening movie to Tekken 3, the console version. Let's check it out. If you haven't read the instruction manual, you won't know what's going on here, but the Tekken force was basically decimated by Ogre, and this is Heihachi going to check it out. Of course, this is Armor King training King 2. Nina and Anna were cryogenically frozen at the end of the second game, probably just to keep them from getting old, knowing Namco. Tekken 3. Okay, let's go back to our spreadsheet. So the opening movie, we'll just call it, this is canon, all of that stuff. It's basically an explanation of each character's, if you read the instruction manual, you'll know that this is basically each character's reason for entering the King of Iron Fist Tournament 3. So we'll call that canon. It is a bunch of vignettes sliced together. It's a little bit of a pre-story type stuff. It explains what's going on, so that's great. Let's look at the arcade intro. Now for you young folks, this version was only played when you bought the home console port. If you were just playing the game in the arcade, this was about as much story as you got for Tekken 3. Literally all that does is tell you that Jin is their son. That's it. I still believe that's supposed to be Jin Kazama's head, even though Harada says different. Okay, that was pretty easy. This is pretty much the same as that. It's just kind of a little thing. We know that Jin is Jun and Kazuya's son. That's canon. We know that Jun's disappearance, as Harada would say now, has something to do with Ogre because she's dead. Anyway, I'm going to say that's canon. I mean, that's just, there's nothing there that isn't known to be true. So let's check out Jin Kazama's ending, Dirty Blood. No violence, even though he's been shot multiple times. It's kind of weird seeing Heihachi use a gun. How's that for a stone head? Alright, that is most definitely a conclusion ending. That is the canon ending to Tekken 3. Jin defeats Ogre. That's what the lights were you saw, was True Ogre being destroyed. And then Heihachi betrays him because he wanted to use Ogre for his nefarious purposes and get rid of Kazuya's lineage all at the same time. However, Jin went Devil Jin, which is the first time we see Devil Jin actually appear in the series, and slammed Heihachi through a window. And they made sure to show Heihachi getting up at the end so that you knew Heihachi Mishima was in fact not dead. But yeah, that's what they did there. So let's check out Paul Phoenix. Poor Paul. So for those of you that are whippersnappers new to the Tekken series, Paul was not always a joke character. He canonically fought Kazuya to a draw before the King of Iron Fist Tournament 1, and basically his whole thing was to get revenge on Kazuya. But for whatever reason, they would never let Paul have that rematch. So his ending in Tekken 2 is him being blocked by a landslide, which prevents him from fighting Kazuya again. So he's disqualified from Tekken 2. This ending is actually a conclusion. So what's happening here is Paul is late to the finals. He's trying to get there as quick as he can, but he gets stopped and given a ticket, and it causes him to miss the finals. The way the Tekken story works is a mess. It's all over the place. So apparently Paul Phoenix defeated Ogre. Okay, he defeated Ogre, but Ogre turned into True Ogre. And so because he did not fight True Ogre, Paul was disqualified somehow. But let's think about this a minute. Maybe this isn't canon. Or maybe it's a vignette, rather. I don't know. Because Paul defeats Ogre. We know that's a fact. But he didn't fight True Ogre, so he was disqualified from the tournament. Now, it stands to reason that once he defeated Ogre, Ogre would have transformed. Okay, I'm still going to call this a conclusion ending because it's just a little different than I thought initially. So what is happening here? Paul defeated Ogre. He leaves the tournament. This happens to him. Back at the tournament, Ogre has transformed into True Ogre, and the tournament continues. I don't know how that works. I don't know how the Mishima Zaibatsu got away with the rules and regulations there, because last I checked, when you defeat your opponent and they fall down, just because they transform into a winged monster does not mean that they get another chance. Unless it was like you had to kill Ogre to continue in the tournament, and Paul beat Ogre and just like left. And then Ogre was like, haha, I'm actually still fine. And then so Jin Kazama steps in to beat him. But very bizarre. But yeah, this is Paul's ending. I have no doubt this is just him leaving the tournament. And he probably got pulled over or something trying to get back to fight True Ogre, or however it was supposed to work. Maybe this Paul was a joke character all along. And the thing is, like, he beat Ogre, but because he didn't stick around to sign any paperwork or anything, he lost the tournament. Regardless, we'll just keep this one as a conclusion to Paul. There's nothing to contradict this. And this is pretty much Paul's whole character arc, is coming this close to winning the tournament and getting screwed because of road conditions. So we'll just keep that one as it is. Let's check out Forest Law, Middle Age. So again, you young folks may not know that Forest Law is Martial Law's son. And for whatever reason, he's the only example of a successor character being rolled back to the parent character, because Forest Law hasn't been in another Canon Tekken game. So this is going to be our first Canon vignette of this game. This is just kind of a little thing that happened. It's just basically a clip of Paul training with Marshall and with Forrest, and still can't do that flip kick. But Forrest was able to because he's younger. That's the joke there. Let's check out King's ending, Destiny. There's Armor King making his only appearance in Tekken 3. First time we see Armor King without his mask, too. And unfortunately, that is the last canonical appearance of the OG Armor King. So what's going on in that ending is basically Armor King trained the new King. King 1 was killed by Ogre. That's King 2, his successor. And Armor King trained him and taught him how to be a good fighter, so that was an excuse to give him King's moveset. Unfortunately, Armor King had the heart condition, which is hinted at in his Tekken 2 ending. And so this is kind of like signifying the end of that. I guess he wasn't feeling well, or he was getting sick or something, so he went backstage and King rushed back there to find him. And there's kind of this weird grainy effect that appears, and I think that was trying to signify that this is the end of Armor King. So this is a conclusion canon ending, because this did canonically happen. Armor King is, of course, in bad health the rest of his life and is killed prior to the King of Iron Fist Tournament 4 by Craig Marduk, one of my least favorite characters in the series, so that kind of sucks that he killed off King. Anyway, let's check out Yoshimitsu and Dr. B. They share an ending, so for the sake of time, we're just going to combine them because it's the same thing for both. That says Ogre's Blood, by the way, if the mishmash polygons, you can't read it good. As silly as that ending is, I'm going to say it is a conclusion canon ending. And the reason being, the whole reason Yoshimitsu was in the third tournament is to help Dr. Boskanovich because he was sick or something like that. Dr. Boskanovich and Yoshi are good friends. He's helped him out with his mechanical part several times. And so it probably stands to reason that Yoshimitsu managed to get a sample of Ogre's blood during the tournament, which they used to treat Dr. B's illness. And at the same time, they experimented on the rat. And it grew to giant size. So there's a little bit of comic relief in that ending. But we'll call that a conclusion canon ending just because Dr. B is canonically still alive. We see him in Tekken 4, so he is still alive. He did not die of his illness. So let's check out Nina Williams, Tekken mainstay character. So after being cryogenically frozen, Nina lost her memory. That's what that was about. Look at that awkward walk animation. So that little flashback actually confirms Nina's ending from Tekken 2 is canon, which we knew it was. Okay, that ending is actually sadder than the game portrays it, because when Nina lost her memories, Anna was trying to help her and like be a friend to her. And Anna's ending is like a little vignette that confirms this. So it's sad in that it looks like Anna wants to be Nina's friend, but Nina still just wants to kill her for whatever reason. Sad or not, this is a conclusion canon ending. This happened. Nina did regain her memory. She knows who Anna is in later entries in the series. So yeah. Actually, second thought, maybe it's not so sad, because Anna knew that if Nina got her memories back, she would hate her again. But who knows? Maybe she was just trying to do the right thing out of the goodness of her crazy Anna Williams heart. Anyway, let's check out Lei Wulong, An Afternoon Nap. So this is supposed to be like a training through the 4 seasons type vibe. Alright, Lei Wulong, poor Lei Wulong. This is just a little vignette that is probably canon, as opposed to shooting the end in a target practice page. The thing about Lei Wulong is he's very annoying to fight against. Not that many people use him, and he just cannot get a canon ending, a fully canon ending to save his life, or at least a, I don't know what you call it, a conclusion ending, because pretty much every time he enters a tournament, he has a goal. He fails at that goal, and his CGI ending is just him doing some random stupid BS, and Tekken 3 is no exception. So let's continue on to Eddie Gordo, Fixer. This is a really cool ending. I like this ending. The music is cool. Seek the truth. Eddie's room, 2,300 hours. Organization headquarters, 00 hours. Eddie Gordo? Okay, so that's another conclusion canon ending. And what's going on there is Eddie Gordo basically broke out of prison, and he was trying to find the person that was responsible for his father's murder. And then once he shakes down the criminal organization, this mysterious organization we never hear about, they point him to Kazuya Mishima. So Kazuya was somehow involved. Of course, Kazuya is dead at this point, so Eddie doesn't really have any recourse at this point in the story, but that is canon. So we'll continue on with Huarong Rival, basically new pretty boy character who was trained by Bayek, who Namco introduced to be Jin Kazama's rival, although not really. I haven't watched that ending probably in 7 or 8 years. Anyway, you could make the argument that this is a what if because Huarong has a statuette there, well, like a trophy or something. Huarong definitely did not win the King of Iron Fist Tournament 3. However, he did participate in it. He did make it pretty far, and he is Jin's rival. And there's nothing to say that the rest of this is non-canon. In future entries, we know that Huarong knows what Jin is, and he's looking for a rematch. In fact, I believe there's a point later on where Huarong fights Jin, but he turns into Devil Jin, and he loses because of that, I think. I'd have to look that up to research it. So we'll call it a conclusion ending, and just to spice things up, we'll call it partially canon. Huarong did not win King of Iron Fist Tournament 3, but the rules are kind of strange around the tournament and how prize money works. A lot of the times you'll see later stories saying that characters got enough prize money to do XYZ. So apparently you get some rewards just for winning a few matches or coming in like, I don't know, maybe starting at 10th place up. I don't know how the tournament works, but we will say this is partially canon, and it's kind of a conclusion because they're insisting that after the tournament, Huarong cared nothing about the trophy. He just wanted to fight Jin again, and he didn't get to do that, and he still doesn't get to do that. Poor Huarong. Poor Bob. Anyway, let's check out Xiaoyu, and this is the kind of the start of the trend of her having kind of silly endings. Jerk. Okay, this ending is kind of a what if, non-canon. If anybody would build an amusement park for someone and name it after himself as a joke, it would be Heihachi. So maybe it is canon. But Xiaoyu didn't win King of Iron Fist Tournament 3, so she wouldn't have had any leverage to make Heihachi build her a theme park. I think if she'd approached Heihachi about this, he would have told her to bugger off. So I do not think that that is canon. I think it's just another fun what if about Xiaoyu's personality in Tekken fashion, introducing a new character and not moving their story arc along at all. Anyway, let's check out Kuma and Panda. They share an ending in this game. It says Mishima Polytechnical School in case the quality is too low for you to see. Poor Kuma. That is a conclusion canon, unfortunately, for Kuma and Panda. Kuma is in love with Panda, in case you didn't know from the story, and Panda doesn't ever give Kuma the time of the day. She just doesn't care about him, and it's kind of a running joke in his character arc. Forget his rivalry with Paul and training with Heihachi and all that. Let's just make all his ending jokes about how he loves Panda, but he keeps getting friend-zoned. Not even friend-zoned. He's like, get out of my face zoned. Poor Kuma. The game would be better without him. Anyway, let's take a look at Julia Chong. Shoutouts to Bump if you're watching.
Michelle! Mother!
You have conquered Ogre. Now the key to control Ogre is this pendant. It was all Heihachi's evil plot.
I'll never let Heihachi get away with this.
No, Julia, wait. Julia, hatred is not the answer. Do you remember why I taught you the powers to fight? It was to protect Mother Earth, not to destroy. Now let's go home, back to Arizona, where the land awaits us.
Excuse me while I recover from that voice acting. This is another conclusion canon. Strangely, this is the only ending with like voice acting in it. It's like they had the capability, but they didn't use it for any of the other endings. Very strange. The pendant is the whole reason that Michelle had to fight in Tekken 1 and 2. So this is perfectly canon. There's nothing that makes this non-canon. The most interesting thing to me is that she says to Julia, "You have conquered Ogre." We know Yoshimitsu got some of Ogre's blood. We know that Paul fought and beat Ogre. We know that Jin Kazama fought and beat True Ogre. This makes it look like a lot of different people fought Ogre at this tournament. I wish there was some clarification on like this. Like, were they just like lined up taking turns fighting Ogre, or was it kind of like some sort of we have to band together to defeat Ogre type situation. What was really going on there? Doesn't make a lot of sense. Anyway, it can be inferred that this is canon. Julia did go back to Arizona. That's confirmed in the new games. And then she picks up her Restore the Wastelands of Arizona plotline later in the game. It's also the last canonical appearance of Michelle Chang, at least up until this point. Gunjack. That's Jane, by the way. Write a comment below if you remember who Jane was in the Tekken story. And that's Dr. Abel, by the way. He just dropped off the face of the earth after Tekken 4. There's nothing to say that this is not canon. We'll just call it a little canon vignette, something that happened. Because I don't think anything is ever mentioned as far as like why Dr. Abel did this other than to be a jerk. Basically, Jane is that little girl that Jack 2 rescues in the intro. She's, of course, grown up by now because there's 20 years between Tekken 2 and Tekken 3. Had to make Jen old enough to fight, you see, without beating up a kid. And Jack protects her and saves the day, and that's that. And that's also the last we see of Gunjack. I think that Jane is mentioned a few more times as like kind of, I think she goes on to work for the company that manufactures jacks and like helps to fix them up and that kind of thing. This ending is unique in that the first time you beat the game with Gunjack, it just ends after he's destroyed. But the second time you play it through, you get the full ending where Jack uses a shield to protect himself and Jane. It's very strange. It's the only ending in the Tekken series that's like that, where you have to beat the game twice to see it. But anyway, let's go on to Mogajin and Uppercut. Oh, I love early Tekken endings. That is a non-canon vignette because I don't think there's a Tekken 3 arcade machine made of wood about Tekken 3, the events of Tekken 3 during Tekken 3. Mogajin's whole deal is he is a reanimated training dummy who comes to life when a supernatural threat threatens the Earth. Ogre is, of course, I think extraterrestrial even, but he's like weird. So that qualifies for a Mogajin revival. So that's why we have Mogajin. Let's check out Anna Williams. I'm just going to show you the American version of this ending. You can go look up, there's an uncensored Japanese version, which is a little more risque. It's nothing you couldn't show on YouTube, so I'm not really too worried about it. It doesn't change the outcome of this. This freaking guy. So there is an uncensored version of that, like I said, where at the end, instead of Anna just walking off, Nina unsnaps her top and embarrasses her in front of all those guys. This is a little vignette thing. I think this happens before Nina's ending, obviously, or they wouldn't be hanging out together. But we'll say it's canon. I actually like the American one better, just because it kind of leaves Anna with the upper hand. And Anna's always getting screwed over by Nina because Nina is Namco's favorite, obviously. And so she always gets screwed over. But in this case, Anna comes out on top and is okay with it. She gets the guys, and Nina is just left staring into the sun. So yeah, let's go with that. You can look up the uncensored one on YouTube. It's maybe like 5 or 6 seconds longer. This is Brian Fury, one of my least favorite Tekken characters. Here's his ending. So Brian is generic angry man cyborg number 15,000. He was introduced as like an ex-partner of Lei Wulong or Bruce Irving or something that died and was resurrected by like Dr. Abel or some stupid stuff like that. And in typical Tekken fashion, they introduce a new character and give you an ending that does nothing to move his story along, and it's just kind of a, hey, here's him doing something cool. There's no reason this could be non-canon. It's because Brian Fury is that strong. He's a cyborg. So yeah, no reason this didn't happen. Not very interesting, but we'll call it canon. A little vignette story. Let's take a look at Heihachi, a grandson's fall. This is a throwback to the Tekken 2, which I believe is a son's fall. Or is it Tekken 1 is a father's fall? Or is that all three of them? Anyway. Yeet. Okay, there's a little bit of background to give on this. When you play through the arcade version of the game, if you are any character except Heihachi, after you defeat Heihachi and defeat Ogre, there's a small cutscene that's shown of Ogre picking up Heihachi. The screen fades to white and it comes back and he's True Ogre. So the implication being that he has absorbed his power or something and become True Ogre. But when you're Heihachi, the game actually switches, and it's Jin that's laying on the ground. Kind of like how they swapped up Kazuya and Heihachi as the Stage 9 boss in Tekken 2. In this case, what this is implying is that Heihachi defeated True Ogre because Jin got beaten or whatever, and he absorbed Jin's power and became True Ogre. And then in the helicopter ride home, he saw the devil power start to manifest, so he chucked him out of the helicopter to avoid another Kazuya situation. This is most assuredly a non-canon what-if situation. It directly contradicts Jin's ending. It contradicts later information about what happened at the end of the King of Iron Fist Tournament 3. This is just a nice little what-if for Heihachi fans to chew on, so that is definitely non-canon. Here's Ogre and True Ogre's ending. They share an ending. I'm going to call this a vignette canon ending, although I do think it's not really a conclusion. It happens right before the conclusion of Ogre's story, at least in my opinion. I think what this signifies is Ogre's transformation into True Ogre, because this is at the temple that the final boss battle takes place on. There's Tekken 4 soldiers around. Excuse me. There's no reason this couldn't have happened. I think that this is just Ogre transforming into True Ogre. It does kind of raise some questions about the nature of the tournament, because we've talked about Julia and Paul and Jin all having a go at Ogre. And so where are they at? You know, why are they not standing around? What is this weird end of tournament situation where you have to fight Ogre, but he turns into True Ogre, so now you have to beat True Ogre? It's just very strange. And I'm thinking too much into an early 90s fighting game story. I do understand that. But if you want to think about the Tekken story, these are the types of questions that you have to wrestle with and struggle through. So let's continue on to Tiger. I used to think this song was so good as a kid. Oh, this is a tough one. Tiger started out as an alternate costume or like an early concept for Eddie Gordo and was put into the game basically as a bonus extra. You get him by selecting Eddie with the start button, and he has all of Eddie's moves, so it's just like you're playing as Eddie. It's debatable whether Tiger himself is canon. He could just be a cool bonus character. But he did, at least in Namco's eyes, merit giving an ending to, even though he's just a palette swap for Eddie. So this does say to me that he is a separate person from Eddie, unless he's just kind of like a JC situation, like he's Eddie's alternate ego that goes on the weekends and does disco. We'll call it a canon vignette just because there's nothing that says this isn't canon. Now, obviously, if Tiger is not a canon character, this didn't happen. But if there is a character named Tiger in the Tekken universe that we just don't know a whole lot about, then yeah, I'm sure being a disco man, he did go dance some disco after the King of Iron Fist Tournament 3, if he was in fact ever there to begin with. So let's check out our final ending for Tekken 3, which is Gon. Sorry guys, he's not coming back. Those are some of the animals from Jun Kazama's Tekken 2 ending, by the way. I stopped there. You may say, Terensu, why did you stop it? You notice that what that ending is called? Loop. In a bit of clever trickery by the developers, this ending will never stop unless you press the start button or another button to get out of it. It just repeats. They carefully made the animation so that it looks like it just goes on and on forever. To my knowledge, you can watch it 100,000 times and it will never stop. And this is kind of a situation like Tiger. Gon was a character from, I believe, an old Japanese manga that for some reason they decided to put in the home console version of Tekken 3 as kind of a joke character. It's probably a vignette. I mean, did Gon canonically participate in King of Iron Fist Tournament 3? It wasn't like Kuma in those days where they came out and made statements about whether a character was actually there or not. Thank goodness Negan doesn't have an ending that I would have to sort through. But anyway, yeah, Gon is just kind of a bonus fun character. He's not really, he doesn't really mean anything to the Tekken story. If he did canonically participate, yeah, his ending's canon. If he didn't canonically participate, then no, he's not canon. So we'll put a note here based on if they exist in Tekken universe or not. Yeah. Because we don't even know if these characters are real as far as Tekken is concerned. So we'll just put that there. Yeah, guys, so that's it for Tekken 3. Thanks so much for stopping by. This concludes the classic Tekken series 1 through 3. Probably maybe not look at Tekken Tag 1 since those are all non-canon. If there's enough interest, we will. But I guess Tekken 4 would be next. What an interesting game that was. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for watching. If you have corrections or questions about the Tekken canon, please comment them below. I would love to see them. Be sure to like and subscribe for more fighting game, Tekken, Castlevania, classic gaming content. I look forward to seeing you there. Also, the Monday night live stream is a thing, Mondays from 9 to 12 Central Time. Thanks so much, guys. See you next time.